Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast is the football podcast, and the season is drawing to a close, so there's some business to take care of by season-long predictions, and we've got playoff football to discuss, and that, I'm afraid, is about it. Still a good old podcast, still a jam-packed one, but yes, we are heading to the end now. Before we get into the football, if you've got a moment, spare couple of minutes, please consider like, share, subscribe, comment, and if you've really got a spare bit of time, you could drop us a review. It means a lot to us, helps the podcast, and we do appreciate it. Right, so here we go. This is CookieCast, football podcast.
Recording in progress.
It is being recorded.
Paul, quickly, it's you.
It's still going to take a bit of time to get used to that little extra on the start of the podcast. But welcome along, everybody. It's your, I'd say, a weekly dose of football-based nonsense. But we're at the end of the season, so for one of the last times, it is your weekly dose of football nonsense. So flavoured with the northeast, east coast, East Midlands flavourings, as they were. So we'll open up for the final time with last week's results, which just happened to be the last day of the season.
Okay, now, is there any way I can convince you to talk about the Middlesbrough game first?
I thought we had the genuine mercy rule that was implemented for the...
so you don't have to talk about it at all?
Go on then, we can discuss the Borough game first.
No, the only reason I ask is because I'm being an absolute shit about it. So, you might need to cast your mind back to last week for something. So, Hull City, in a podcast derby, went up against Nottingham Forest. There was alleged toes in the sand with fruity drinks from one of these teams. So, as it's a podcast derby, are we going to flip a coin to find out who's giving the results, or is this like one of you does the score and the other does the goal scorers?
Or you just give us the details.
Interesting.
And then these two just sort of like fight it out amongst themselves to sort of see who gets to speak first.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Maybe do we split the duties? Somebody want to give because there are controversy around the goal scorer for one of them as well. Seeing as it was announced as two different goal scorers on two different pubs.
Nah, I don't think there's any controversy over the goal scorers. Nah. Certainly not according to my book, let's put it that way.
Well, what goes in the final after all, so, there is that. So, apparently, Stuart scored every goal this season for every team, so it's now because he's written in the book. Okay. Matt, do you want any of it?
I'll let you have the honours, being as your team was the home team and you scored last. I think that's the way we should do it next time. So, the team that scores last gets to give the result.
Well, as it happens, home team scores last, so it was Hull 1, Nottingham Forest 1. Apparently nothing happened, really, for the entire game. And then in the 95th minute, Brennan Johnson scored a penalty, and just a minute later, Hull equalised. Now, the official Championship EFL on Quest thing had it down as a Louis Coyle goal. Scott's had it as a Keyless Potter. Apparently glanced shoelace on the way past. So it's still. I checked it again today, and it's still on there as Keane Lewis Potter. So I assume that we have to go KLB Hull's equaliser.
Oh, we definitely need to go with that. Yes, absolutely, absolutely need to go with that. So, what does that do to the scores, I hear you ask? Well, for a rule that we will definitely be having to assess next year, Paul, you got a point because you predicted a 0-0 draw.
Why is that up for debate? I don't understand why that's up for debate. Why that's not a point?
In my day, it would have been classed as shithousery. That's all I'm saying.
Why? That's the debate. Especially in football, a 0-0 is a perfectly legitimate result to guess. And for 90, and if we take the 90-minute rule, technically, I would have been correct.
There's a lot of rules being thrown around here.
We can discuss that later on in the podcast, because I forgot about that the other day.
We will allow it. Let's put it that way. Next season, who knows what rules will be thrown in. We're going to have to write a rule book, which can be bought from the Cookie Cast store.
We'll call it the cat rule. The cat rule 0-0 draw.
Stu, you did your usual, went against your own team, had Forest winning. No points there, but having Johnson down to score the goal, points in the bag.
But by Paul's theory, we only count the first however many minutes we want to count, don't we? So count up to the 93rd minute for me this time. That's right, isn't it?
That's what suits.
A rather interesting one, Matt. You also predicted a draw. So you got a point. There you go. So you predicted 4 goal scorers.
None of them.
And didn't get a single one. I also predicted a draw. It was the 1-1, so that was 2 points, and Lewis Potter and Johnson. So that's a clean sweep for anybody who's keeping track. 4 points.
I sat there on Saturday, and as the Forest goal went, and I was like, well, someone definitely picked him because he gets picked every week. And then when they gave it to Lewis Potter, I was like, that rings a bell. That really rings a bell. I'm sure someone might have a clean sweep, but then I didn't have the cojones to put on the messenger thing. Is that another clean sweep this week?
So I had to triple check the scorers and the date, because I was like, have I got the wrong date here? Is this just like one of those weird where like the website hasn't updated? Because I have it on the iPad, and I have to physically tell it to update, because it's just like, it's, last Wednesday when you updated the book. It's like, no, it isn't. Just refresh. Come on. It was in fact a clean sweep there for myself. 4 points. Preston North End versus Middlesbrough. I've had so much like internal turmoil with this game, and eventually I had to send a text message to our collective group to ask a question, and I wasn't sure how to phrase it, so I just had to go with Paul.
Well, what can you say, really? This was, as discussed on the podcast last week, this was an absolute must-win for Borough, but as it turned out, the result of this wouldn't have mattered anyway, as both Sheffield United and Luton Town won their respective games, so even with a win, Borough would have fallen short of the playoffs. So in that scenario, what's not to love about a nice, thumping 4-1 home win for the Preston team in front of, let's just have a look, shall we? No, don't have the attendance to hand. But all I can remember was that there were 5,000 Middlesbrough fans in attendance, and the entirety of the away stand was pretty much a sea of red. But yes, the game started pretty innocuously, and up until about the 20th minute, it was all going smoothly. Then Alan Brown opened the scoring for Preston. A second goal was added on 35 minutes by the own boot of Dale Fry. Whilst in London, enjoying, strange enough, a nice meal in the Borough Market, was horrified to open my phone to see that apparently it was 3-0 at that time, but they just got the goal scorer wrong, so sent it through again, but thought it was a third goal. But it was only 2. We're going to half-time with Preston 2-0 up. Middlesbrough get a goal back in the 48th minute from Marcus Tavernier. Obviously, the goals had been widened at Preston North End for the last game of the season. Comebacks on. We'll just extinguish that flame with an Emil Rees-Jacobsen strike on the 53rd minute. Paddy McNair then decided the best way to end this season would be to get a straight red card in the 73rd minute, and then Emil Rees-Jacobsen stuck away the penalty to put the icing on top of the cake and complete a 4-1 Preston win.
So, everybody had Borough down to win this, so no points to be had score-wise. The only people who managed to take any points out of this, Paul, you correctly predicted Tavernier to score, and Matt, you correctly predicted Jacobsen to score. That is where the scoring ends. Stu bringing up the rear with 1 point for the week. A draw for second, with Paul and Matt having 2 points. And my clean sweep was enough to set me in good stead for the week, winning the week with 4.
Seeing as Paul took the time then, the YouTube viewers may have seen him pointing and laughing as you announced I was last. I would just like to remind him that our very first game of the season, having just come up from League One, was away at Preston, and Hull won that game 4-1. So there's symmetry in that scoreline. So.
Yeah, we can all say this. It's only the best teams beat Blackpool at home. Blah blah blah, etc. etc. Yeah, there was only two teams that took 6 points off the Borough this season. Preston and Hull. So.
Don't really know what to say. So, end of the season flavour. Where do we go to now?
Well, obviously, usually we'd dive straight into the predictions for next week. But as it is a playoff week, I feel we should leave that till the end, and we'll just go through some of our season-long picks that we made way back when, I believe in early July. No, it would have been late July or early August, actually. So,
I feel real confident. I just want it out there. I feel real confident about this.
You should.
I'm sure I'll have done really well. Grabham got those 60 goals, I'm sure.
Of course. So, we started off with the new boys to the division in Hull City. Each of us, from a personal perspective, gave a player to watch for our own personal team. Stu's player to watch for Hull was Ryan Longman. I'd say that's a pretty good pick. They ended up turning his loan spell into a permanent deal in January, so he is now there for the foreseeable future, until he obviously gets bought by someone else this summer. So, predictions-wise, for the finish in the league, Stu was the most optimistic and went for a 15th place finish. Matt went for a 16th place finish. Andy went 18th, and I was the least optimistic of the bunch, and I went for a 20th placed finish. Hull actually finished 19th, so very much split mine and Andy's difference, if you will. So me and Andy probably take the point there if we're doing points, as we were 1 place either side. Matt was 3 places out, Stu was 4. Top scorers for the club, Matt went with Josh McGuinness, who scored 2 goals before he was sold to Wigan. I don't know if that was that even before the summer transfer window ended?
No, it was in.
Or was it in January?
It was in January because he played a little bit, scored a couple, didn't play an awful lot. Like he didn't know what was going on with the takeover and the rest of it, so he basically just bolted when given the opportunity, which you can't really blame him, I guess, at the time. But like, part of me wonders how much would he wanted to have stuck around now.
I was trying to just save myself there by seeing how many goals he'd scored for Wigan, and just the 3, so it didn't really make that much of a difference.
I'll tell you what, I'll stick his 3 for Wigan in the book for you as well, just to sort of make you feel a bit better.
I was like, maybe he scored some for Wigan as well. Nope. No.
No, it was another ex-Hull body, I think, who scored the goals this season for Wigan, in Will Key.
Yeah, 26.
So, Josh McGuinness, 2 goals for Matt. For both Stu and Andy, they picked Malik Wilkes to repeat as the top scorer. There was a knowledgeable soul in the group, though. Picking Keane Lewis Potter to be the top scorer for Hull City was myself, and indeed, Hull's top scorer, one of 2 ever-present players for the club, was Mr. Keane Lewis Potter with 12 goals. Now, quick quiz question for Stu. Can you tell me the other ever-present player who played all 46 league games outside of Keane Lewis Potter?
I'm trying to think who's not been injured. Was it potentially another podcast favourite by any chance? Was it Mr. George Honey? No. Well, it wasn't Tom Eaves.
Podcast favourite Tom Eaves.
Likely to be somebody in the defence, then, I'd say.
I think it is a centre-half.
No. Is it Greaves? Was it Mr. Greaves?
Jacob Greaves was the other ever-present player for Hull City. So there you go. I'd say that's a pretty good. I'd say it's a pretty decent prediction from the position perspective. We were all within 4 places. I'd say that's pretty decent. And the player to watch obviously ended up staying at the club, and I'd say he was one of the better players for the season, Ryan Longman. So pretty good. We move on to Nottingham Forest. Position finish. This is where it gets interesting. So, most optimistic, Andrew Cook, 9th position Then the next most optimistic person, Paul Williams, 10th position. Joint least optimistic, Stuart Woodmansey and Matthew Moore, Forest fan no less, with joint 12th place predictions. So obviously, with Forest finishing in 4th and fully ensconced in the middle of the playoff run, they were both 8 places out with their predictions. I was out by 6 places, and Andy takes the win on that one, being out by 5 places.
I would have looked like a genius. Well, not a genius. 7 games in, and like that would have been optimistic. Oh yeah, that'd be great. I love it. Take it. We'll take it now.
Exactly right. Top goal scorer. Not an awful lot of difference on this one, as at the time it was pretty obvious. The previous top scorer from the previous season was Lewis Grabban with 6. 3 people predicted Lewis Grabban to be the top goal scorer this season. That was Matt, Stu, and Andy. He did get 12 goals. He wasn't the top goal scorer. It's all right though, because Paul Williams' prediction of Lyle Taylor with 3 goals for the season, absolutely spectacular, ladies and gentlemen. The actual top goal scorer for Nottingham Forest with 16 was Matthew Moore's player to watch for the season of Brennan Johnson. Well done, Mr. Moore. The Forest didn't have an ever-present player this season. The closest, Matt, do you have any idea on this one? He did play all 46 games, but 2 of them came as a sub.
Oh, Joe Worrell would be my...
I think I checked and he only played 45 games. He didn't miss 1.
Is he your mate?
No, there's absolutely no way Ryan Yates goes through a season without at least 1 suspension. Come on.
It's not your boy from Middlesbrough via...
Not Spence, no.
Or maybe Brennan Johnson, actually.
It is indeed Brennan Johnson. He played all 46 games, 2 of which came as a sub, so he would have missed minutes from that perspective.
Also, the weekend it was one of the games that he didn't start.
Did he come on?
Yeah.
Ah, you see. Interesting. So, again, we weren't really at the races with the position. Obviously, we were coming off and finishing 17th in the Championship the season before. And we didn't pick the top scorer, but obviously Matt's player to watch of Brennan Johnson was an absolute stellar pick. So pretty good going on that one. So we've just got Middlesbrough to finish off. I'll leave my position finish till the end. Least optimistic again was Stu and Matt paired off with each other, and they both had Borough to finish 9th. Most optimistic was actually Andrew, who had them to finish 6th and sneak into the playoffs. Someone knew though. He knew his team, and predicting the team to finish 7th in the division, where they indeed finished. Paul Williams, well done, sir. Well done to you. We then come on to the sad.
Horn being good.
We come on to the sad predictions of the top scorer, however. Both myself and Stu went for the new summer signing centre forward of Uche Ikpeatsu. He scored 2 goals before he was unceremoniously binned off to Cardiff by the new manager. Andy picked the same player who was top scorer last season in Duncan Watmore, who got 7 goals for the season, so not a terrible return. Matt technically picked Chuba Akpom, but on the predictions podcast, I believe we did say he was more than likely going to get sold / loaned out, which he did in the end. He went back to PAOK Salonika. So we allowed Matt to have his replacement, which technically was Andraz Sporar, who got 8 goals for the season. However, the top goal scorer for the Borough was indeed a new signing, but it was Matt Crooks, bit of a podcast favourite from a goals perspective. He ended the season with 10 goals. Now, again, there was no ever-present players for Borough. The closest, does anyone want to hazard a guess on this one?
I bet it's difficult because with the chopping and changing of managers and stuff like that, your keeper, the goalkeeper.
No, the goalkeeper changed. He got dropped twice by different managers because he was a bit hazard. He was a bit error prone.
Tavernier
was up there. I think he played 44.
The barn door botherer.
Is it going to be somebody like Howson?
Johnny Captain Fantastic Howson played 45 games, one of which as a sub. Now, obviously, the thing that obviously everyone's waiting to hear, who did Paul tip up as the player to watch? I mean, I'm amazed that you're not just all clamouring to say, can you give us some more tips for next season, Mr. Williams? Because obviously this guy, he must be tearing it up in the Premier League or La Liga or something like that, because he's not on the Borough anymore. So, come on down, Marcus Brown. That's correct, ladies and gentlemen. Don't adjust your sets. There is not technical difficulties. The crickets you heard there were because after Paul tipped up Marcus Brown to be the one to watch the season for Borough, I don't think he played a single minute before he was released from his contract to join Oxford United. So, yeah, pretty good going. We do have season-long predictions of Championship winner, runners-up and playoff winner and the 3 teams to be relegated, along with the top goal scorer for the league. But I think you might have to just wait just a smidge of time before we find out that information, ladies and gentlemen. Over to you, Mr. Cook.
I was thinking the same. We will take a small commercial break and we will be back to find out how well or / poorly we predicted the season-long predictions. We'll be right back.
Recording in progress.
And just like that, they were back. I don't think you'll get a second one. He's had to switch contraptions.
Good. It's what we live for. It's what we all need to hear to feel alive. So, we'd left off with just a few predictions for the season to go through. So, like I said, at the start of the season, we each picked the team we thought were going to win the league, the team to finish runners-up, and the team to finish in the playoffs and win the playoffs. We each picked 3 teams that we thought were going to get relegated, and we picked a top goal scorer for the whole division. So, Championship winner, Matthew Moore, picked
Fulham.
West Bromwich Albion.
Fair enough. Wrong.
0 points. Stuart Woodmansey picked Sheffield United. Question mark. We'll come to them in a minute. Andrew and Paul Williams picked Fulham. 1 point. Runners up in the Championship. Paul and Andrew picked West Bromwich Albion. No points. Stuart Woodmansey picked Swansea City. No points.
I mean, can we wind this back? Was that clearly smoking something that week, or like?
I mean, I think there's an argument to be made that was the case. Yes.
I'd just like to clear up that I don't use that stuff, so maybe it was just a general head injury. Who knows?
Who knows? Let's watch back the season predictions podcast and see in what state your brain was looking. Redeeming himself from his West Brom to win the league pick, Matt did have Fulham as runners-up. So I've given him half a point for that particular pick. Now, teams to win the playoffs. Both myself, Stu, and Matt all went Bournemouth. So technically I've given us each half a point for that. Andrew Cook has picked Sheffield United.
Ooh.
Which could make his predictions to come very interesting, to say the least.
I just want to say, whichever one of you gave me that prediction to use as my own, thank you.
It is amazing. You may notice there that at no point has anyone from the from the podcast picked Middlesbrough, Hull, or Nottingham Forest in the top 6.
We'll put that in the previous part.
Yeah. So, the 3 relegated clubs. Both myself, Stu, and Matt all picked everyone's favourite sheep botherers themselves, Derby County. 1 point. Stu, Matt, and Andy all picked Peterborough United. 1 point. That's sadly where the points end, lads. Stu, Matt, and Andy all also picked Blackpool, who definitely stayed up. Me and Andy probably need to get minus points for this, as we picked Huddersfield to be relegated. They ended up finishing 3rd in the entire league. I also picked Bristol City as one of my 3 to go down, and they almost certainly did not get relegated. The 3rd team to go down was actually Barnsley, who had finished 5th the season before. So, I mean, that has to go down as a bit of a nightmare situation for Barnsley. So both Stu and Matt got 2 of the 3 teams correct there, so well done, boys. Myself and Andy took 1 each. Now, here's the creme de la creme, the pick that everyone's waiting for. Who did everyone pick to be the league's top scorer? We'll dive in with Matt's pick.
Oh.
Can he remember what he picked?
Adam Armstrong, didn't I?
Adam Armstrong finished the season on 0 goals in the Championship.
Because he left
Mainly as
he
was sold to a Premier League side. So he did get 2 goals in the Premier League for Southampton. So, I mean, it's still not great, but you know, he had scored 20 plus. He had scored 20 plus the season before for Blackburn. So you can understand why the pick was made. Stu, not entirely sure how he's come to this conclusion, as he didn't have West Brom anywhere in his picks to go up, but he did pick Callum Robinson to be the top goal scorer in the league. I had a look at the stats and he got 7. So,
more than Adam Armstrong.
7 better than Adam Armstrong, absolutely, if you want to look at that. Hi. Again, don't know what I was thinking. I went for Kiefer Moore to be the top goal scorer in the division. He did get 9 goals. 5 when he was at Cardiff, and 4. Which I didn't realise he only played 4 games for Bournemouth, and he scored a goal a game for them, which is pretty ridiculous. But yeah, sadly, I was incorrect with my pick of Kiefer Moore on 9 goals. I don't really know how to pronounce this guy that Andrews said. It seems to some guy called Alexander Mitrovic.
So I couldn't remember any of the predictions for anything, but when you kept saying about like the season long, I was like, I think I know who I picked for this. And I think I heard at some point he might have scored a goal or 2.
42?
A goal or 43? Yeah. So absolutely obliterating the Championship goal scoring record by at least 8 or so. I honestly don't know what the previous record was.
I thought, I don't know, isn't it a little bit closer than that? Because I was surprised that because I think he scored and he's got the record on his own now, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm pretty sure. I'll check,
because I think he was close to the record with about something like 10 games still to go, and it was. I think people were under the impression that it was going to be pretty impossible for him to not beat the record. It was just a case of, could he get to a point where he'd basically get a goal a game, and he ended up finishing 3 short of a goal a game. So, I mean, he's absolutely torn the league to shreds. Let's be honest.
So the opening bit I've just found says it took him until the final game of the 46. But last season, Brentford's Ivan Toney set a new record for the most goals scored in a single championship season with 31. With 14 games to play, Alexander Mitrovic broke it.
That was it. The record that he's broken is the most goals in any of the leagues in the...
Oh, you're talking about Guy Whittingham, aren't you?
Yeah. That was the one.
Yeah, there you go, 92-93. 42 for Portsmouth.
Yeah, because it keeps getting brought up. Obviously, the only reason I see it is because of the team that I support. But the actual all-time record for the second tier is held by George Camsell, who played for Borough back in, I believe, the 1920s. And I think he got 62 in a season once. But I think it came either the season before or possibly even in the same season that Dixie Dean got 60 in the top flight. So it was kind of that thing where, yeah, he scored shitloads of goals, but there was a guy doing it in the division above, so it was like twice as good. So this poor old guy who was playing for Borough, who was absolutely smashing goals in left, right, and centre, was just sort of forgotten about, really.
I love these when you get the most goals scored. Most goals in the English First Division, like sort of top tier Premier League or thingy. Jimmy Greaves, 41. Just a casual 41 goals in a season, which is just ridiculous.
And this is probably when there wasn't 20 teams in the league, was there? There'd have only been 14 teams in the division or something like that.
No, there were a bit. I think that was right. They probably had 24 teams.
Oh, right. Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
But if you think Christmas came and they complain about the pitches in the winter time now. I mean, from October through to March, it was like an absolute quagmire there.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, that's what sort of basically contributed to Clough's decline, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because he was playing on an awful pitch, and someone challenged him really badly, and he ruptured his knee.
Yeah, his knee got stuck in the pitch as he went in to score a goal. Which he kindly reminds people that he did score the goal at the same time. So
yeah, classic Clough. But it was that sort of thing back then, obviously, because the medical science wasn't what it is today. If you tore one of your cruciate ligaments, you were basically done because they couldn't do anything about it. Well, there we go, lads. There's our season-long predictions. Obviously, we'll do the same again next season, and in 12 months' time, we'll get to laugh at ourselves for how pathetically bad we are again. Unless we're, of course, Andrew Cook picking a guy to score 43 goals in a season.
Again, I'd like to thank whoever gave me that prediction in the first place. I believe it was you, Paul. Is it time to predict some player football, or do you want to talk the news?
I don't think there really is any news as such, to be honest with you.
As the end of the season, I can't imagine there's massive stuff going on in the news.
Well, with the end of the season opens the transfer window, because there's already been a little bit of chat. Because obviously we've got the new owner in at Hull, so the checkbook is officially open, and there's one of them, not surprising. One of them I was a little bit shocked by. So, to anyone and everyone who will listen to him, it's no surprise that he's wanting to bring in a very strong Turkish contingent to the club. Whether that's actual players from Turkey, players that have played in Turkey, whatever. And apparently,
players who have once eaten turkey.
well, yeah, I guess. But yeah, we've been linked with a holding midfielder by the name of Fernando from Turkish side Antalyaspor.
Is he a guy who used to play for Man City?
He's a Brazilian guy. So I don't know. I didn't look into his history as that much, but the bit that surprised me on this one was that he only signed for them in January on an 18-month deal, and he's played 14 games and he's scored 4 goals and 3 assists. But for somebody who's billed as a holding midfielder, it's probably not the worst record.
That's Mitrovic level of goal scoring.
The one that they say that was kind of not surprising because it's coming from sort of a Turkish club and all the rest of it. The one that was surprising that I'd seen was that due to the demise of Derby, Hull are apparently interested in re-signing Curtis Davis. He was their player of the season apparently last season. The season just gone, so I'm not really sure what that tells you when a defender gets it and they still go down. But apparently Bristol are also keen as well, with Nigel Pearson, the manager there. So there's kind of Hull links everywhere all the way through that. And the last thing I seen to do with Hull was about Matt Ingram. If you remember, we spoke last week that he'd been packed off to Luton because they had a crisis with the goalkeepers and he let a lot of goals in his first game. Well, they've landed in the playoffs in the end anyway, and he's had to cancel his honeymoon to go and play for a club that he officially never really permanently signed for. So, bit of an odd one, but I bet his missus is delighted.
She's absolutely 100% in that destination as we speak.
see you at the end of the week, fella, is that the year?
Yeah. It's a case of, hang on a second. So you've got 2 games in the space of 4 days. Just fly afterwards. There's no way they're getting to Wembley. I imagine this is Mrs. Ingram speaking, not Paul Williams speaking.
Yeah, Huddersfield have gained an extra supporter.
Yeah. I wouldn't. But saying that, I think there's like a 2-week gap between the end of the playoffs or the end of the playoff week and then the playoff final. So surely get yourself some sun, lad. Come back and play the playoff final with a lovely tan. No?
No, I don't think professional football works that way. 2 weeks off, go and get yourself a holiday.
No.
Warm weather training is the phrase they'll be rolling out.
Let's predict some playoff football. Now, this was one of those. Sometimes I have to check and double check, and then I have to triple check, and then I have to ask somebody who knows more about it than me to check my working out, because the 2 games to predict look somewhat similar. Sheffield United going up against Nottingham Forest. Stu.
I have a story throughout this. So if we're taking it game by game, then for the Sheffield United home leg, close your ears now, Matt. I have got Sheffield United to win 1-0. And I've got Billy Sharp scoring, clearly.
Don't know what to say about this. Paul?
You know how if you ever need to repeat something in a book,
You
normally just put like a couple of ditto marks and stuff like that. Stuart's read my mind as that was the exact prediction that I was going to make for this one. As they're on a bit of a roll, and the old boy rule is most certainly in effect.
Yeah, I'm not with you. I'm not with you at all on this one, I'm afraid. 2-0 to Nottingham Forest.
Listen, if it happens, no one in this this virtual room is going to be disappointed about that. So.
Johnson and Zinkernagel.
Strange question. Zinkernagel's loan, I'm assuming it's been allowed to include the end of the season.
I think it's like, till July kind of thing. I think they put things. I presume they put clauses in, don't they, at the start of the season? Because I presume Jed Spence will be the same.
Yeah, I imagine they'll have worked it out. Obviously, Watford aren't going to mind because it's another game that he's ready for the Championship next season.
Get his practicing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I presume all players were all kind of.
Yeah, I think it happened a couple of seasons ago where Borough win the playoffs. Sorry, and I think it's just dependent on the club that they're on loan from. Normally, it's just a case of something will be agreed in the weeks before or something like that, just to extend the loan by however many weeks. It'll probably just be that Forest just have to cover his wages for that extra 2-week period.
Yeah, I think even Keenan Davis, his loan runs through the playoffs, even though he's technically injured or possibly fit in time for it. Who knows?
Matt, what do you reckon is going to happen in this game?
I've gone for a 1-1 draw. Both matches already this season have been 1 each. So it's 1 each at the City Ground, 1 each at the Brown Lane. Yeah, I've just got 1-1 draw. I've gone for Brewster to score for Sheffield United because Forest were apparently interested in him at Christmas, and Surridge to score.
So, like I say, I had to double check, and when I was going through the upcoming games, I was like, What? And I presumed it was something playoff based because the other game to predict is Nottingham Forest versus Sheffield United. Nottingham Forest are going to win 2-0. Those goal scorers are Johnson and Zinkernagel.
Rumped into the playoff finals.
Paul.
You know when you need to copy something? No, but I'm going 2-0, but I'll go for Johnson, and just from a purely romantic perspective, I'll go for Spence to get the winner.
To get the winner. I love it. Stu.
Well, this is where Matt can start listening to me again now, because throughout the playoff games that have happened in the lower leagues so far, the first game has been the deciding game. I think this is where Forest break that trend, and I haven't gone for a 2-0. I've actually gone 3-0 to Forest at the City Ground.
Love it.
Plus, as well, seeing Forest in the Cup this season, they had that bounce about them, and essentially it's a cup game at home. So I've gone for Johnson twice and Surridge for the...
You said that before.
Okay, Matt.
I've gone for a 1-1 draw.
Right, keep going.
I went 1-1 draw with Billy Sharp scoring for Sheffield United and Johnson scoring for Forest.
Can I ask at this point, if Matt gets the scores right in both games but the scorer's the wrong way round, can we just give him the points anyway? Because that's a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely.
But probably ultimately to Forest to lose on penalties, because that's...
Don't do it to yourself, man. What are you
the way
doing?
it's going to be.
Is it?
It's just the worst. It's just the worst. The best thing I read this week was Gary Birtles, who was a Forest striker in the late 70s, early 80s. And he's like, don't think about the Forest past playoff disappointment. It's a different manager with different players. And I'm like, hands up. Is that the same manager that went out in the playoffs last season with his other club? And the season before that? Yeah, because that happened. Oh, and are these the same players that had to lose by a horrific amount of goals on the last day of the season to then not be in the playoffs? Yeah. That some of those players still play for the club. So yeah. Just don't mind me if I just sit in the corner and gently kind of lower my expectations and rock gently back and forth as I have mild panic attacks every kind of 30 seconds kind of thing definitely on Tuesday night. I mean, it might all be done and dusted by Saturday, to be honest.
What I would say is that from like a sort of a, I can't think of the word, not a curse perspective. I can't think of the word. It's going to piss me off.
Yeah, you're going to kind of like some kind of religious kind of thing. Steve Cooper and Forrest have come together to cleanse each other of their playoff nightmares.
No, it
was a horrendous image. No one wants to see him being
it was going to be, if they could have chosen a team to play, Sheffield United would probably be the best team because their playoff luck is absolutely horrific. I think they've been to 5 finals and they've lost every single one of them.
The worst thing is that 19 years ago, the Cross Keys in York, I want to say, is it like that's on the corner, isn't it?
Near Boyce's is.
Yes. I had the misfortune of Forest. I can't remember if they had a lead coming into the second leg of the playoff, in the second leg, or whether at about half time they had said lead and Billy Sharp popped up and scored 2 and I trudged home up past the hospital devastated, would be nothing short of it. So I'm not it's kind of that kind of thing of our playoff woes outweigh your playoff woes, and somebody's woes have got to break at some point. And I don't know. I've got to sit there, and my dad keeps on saying, "One, do you want to be in the Premiership?" And you're like, "No, because if you think I'm miserable now, I'm going to be miserable from like August through till May next thing." And like you said, you'll be just counting down the days till we've got 12 points. But like, and you know, you just think, it's. You know, and he's like, "You've got to remember where we were in September." I was like, God, but can you just go through that misery kind of one more time or 2 more times? I don't know. I should be optimistic, but I hate the playoffs. We still wouldn't have gone up anyway, even if they just said, third goes up. So, you know, you're kind of like, all right, fine. We backed our way into the playoffs.
Well, there we go. Predictions are in the book. And we will all be waiting to see how the playoffs go, as I'm sure you can agree. Anything else to go through? Anything?
So quickly, there was I don't think we discussed it last week, but there was the prospect of VAR being used in the playoffs, but that's been got rid of. Much to, even though Forest fans were bitching and moaning about it, it's very much to Forest's benefit, because the amount of dodgy stuff that goes on in particularly in the penalty area that Worrell gets away with and McKenna gets away with, I think
I mean, unless Yates has left the team in the last week.
He don't do that in the penalty box. I didn't mention that. I said penalty box.
VAR is in play for the whole pitch, Matthew. Seriously, he must be shit. He must be shitting himself at the prospect of playing in the Premier League because he'll be getting about 8 red cards a season.
I'm going to put it out there. Don't think it's going to be much of a problem if they get promoted. Because I don't think
he's in the team of the season.
Yeah. All right then. I can see all those Premier League clubs clamouring for his signing because he was there, wasn't he?
Right, nailed on. Timestamp it, Andrew. Timestamp that. When Ryan Yates is sold for like 15 million to to Brentford or something like that in the Premier League in the off season. And
if someone wants to come in and pay between 15 to 20 million pounds for him, great. I will have the biggest smile on my face if that happens, because that is a daylight robbery.
You'll have a smile on your face, and I'll be taking a trip to the bookies to place the first bet of. Can I have the odds on a player to get sent off in his first 5 professional Premier League matches, please?
Well, there you go. A lot of stuff to watch out for the future there. Obviously, we'll be keeping an eye on playoff football, a close eye, some would say. That's it for this one, and well, it's all over by the shouting, if you ask me, but what do I know? Join us next week where we review the playoff games for better or worse. Tense times. But until then, it's my job to thank these gentlemen for taking me and you lovely people through the sometimes murky waters of the football world, and we shall catch you next time. Tatty byes. So there you go, watching into that. Playoff football predicted. And the season-long preview predictions all done and dusted. Really is getting to that time now. Thank you for listening along. Thank you for listening through the season. And before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. And maybe drop us a review. You can also check out our website, thecookiecast.com. We've got some social media links and an email button. You can get in touch with us if you're so inclined. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.